No, he's not going to be here.
Hold up a picture of him.
All right, here we go. Ooh, wow. All right, I said I wasn't going to. Wow. Apparently, I just dropped the Thor hammer. I don't know. Sorry about that. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening and for your interest in Belton ISD. The time is now 6:15, and the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Monday, June 15th, 2026 at the Pittenger Fine Arts Center at 400 North Wall Street, Belton, Texas. A quorum of board members is present. Note that Mr. Bozen is absent, but you've got the rest of us, so we're good to go. This meeting has been duly called, and notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our live streaming viewers to this meeting. As the Belton ISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public, not a public meeting. Prior to the meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda, often hundreds of pages. Agenda items may not necessarily be handled in the order in which they are listed on the notice. We will be deviating a little bit tonight just to try to get some of our guest speakers here on time. This meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. These proceedings are being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel and will be available for review in the days following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are on silent. Ooh, all right, that's a mouthful. All right, so please rise for a moment of silent prayer and meditation. All right, please remain standing as we've got a couple students from James L. Burrell Elementary who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and honors to the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, you may be seated if you're not already sitting. There you go. All right. The first item on the agenda this evening is going to be recognitions, and we're going to turn it over to the communications team while we all come down for photo ops with the crew. So.
And we are pleased this evening to recognize by name our student pleasures. We have third graders from Burrell Elementary, Riker Cottrell and Brinley Hargrave. Riker loves science and enjoys spending time building with Legos. His friends describe him as kind, helpful, and cheerful. Brinley enjoys reading and writing. Her friends describe her as a caring, hardworking student who is always willing to help others. Well, we thank both of you for helping get our meeting started right tonight. Thanks so much, you guys, for being with us. Now we would like to recognize Unified Track from Lake Belton High School. The Lake Belton High School Unified Track team placed third at the state track and field meet, earning this amazing finish made up of 46 student athletes. It represents bringing together students of all abilities as teammates, fostering inclusion, teamwork, and meaningful connections. Under the guidance of their coaches, Coach Barnes and Coach Townsell, we are so grateful to all of you and your hard work. Congratulations. And she was unable to be here with us this evening, but I do want to mention that Belton New Tech recent graduate, Samantha McKenzie, not only qualified to go to the state golf tournament, but she also is recognized with all state academic honors as well. And so we are sorry that she couldn't join us, but pleased and proud of her accomplishments. And now we do have academic all-state softball recipients. Come on up. We have from Belton High School, Iris, Lauren, and Kennedy, and Coach Morgan Burkle. This reflects your commitment of all of our student athletes to excel both in the classroom and in competition. Congratulations on this academic all-state honor. We don't get to do many first around here, but this is our first time to honor a Heller Award recipient. We have Belton High School senior Malachi Santana, who earned Best Lead Performer at the 13th Annual Heller Awards for Young Artists. So this was described to me as like the Tonys for the state of Texas for high schools in terms of award ceremonies. And Malachi, we could not be more proud of you and this accomplishment. And of course, Miss Lavorne and Miss Stuff, thank y'all for being here and for all that you have done to get him ready for this honor. Congratulations. The page stuck together. I'm so sorry. Thank you for being adaptable. Appreciate you. So, out of order though, is our academic all-state track recipient. Well, we have Palu and Christian. Just Palu. Palu, who earned academic all-state honors in track from the Texas High School Coaches Association. Coach Pinkerton has helped get him ready for this amazing honor, and again, representing amazing accomplishments both in the classroom and on the field. Congratulations to you. I'm just making sure I didn't skip any more pages. They're sticking together tonight. I'm so sorry. Okay, so our final recognition this evening is our community partner, Texas Nativescapes. This month, their team donated and applied sand top dressing to the Wilson Kersey Field, providing an in-kind contribution that will help improve and maintain a space used by students, staff, and the entire community. This investment reflects the kind of partnership that helps our programs thrive and our facilities remain a source of pride. We are truly grateful for this partnership. Thank you, Texas Nativescapes. Thank you.
All right, we're going to do it a little bit differently tonight. So you guys can go back up top. All right, so what we just did, the recognitions, was probably the most fun part of the whole meeting, right? So this is great. We're going to continue on with regular business, which is oh so much fun. We invite you to stay if you want to stay. However, if you were just here for recognitions and really don't want to hang out with us for the next couple hours, you're more than happy to go. right, we're getting our technology straight here. Our screen is booting.
Okay, while we're waiting.
Uh-oh, let's go.
Okay, we asked one of our students, it was our all-state track student, how fast he runs the mile.
Yeah,
5 minutes flat.
yeah, 5 flat.
Wow.
Flying.
Okay. That is impressive. So just thought y'all would want to know that stat.
Yeah. Okay, looks like we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, so next on the agenda is public comments. No, waving me off. No public comments. All right, so there being no public comments, we're going to move forward and we're going to change up things a little bit while we're waiting for some of our speakers. So we're going to go into reports first. And so to start out reports, I think we're going to go to the academic progress report around special ed, correct?
Yes, and so Gabby Nino has come to the podium. She's our Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, and she's going to provide y'all with an update on special education progress. This is an annual report required in the state of Texas, and so Gabby's going to take us through it.
Yep, sorry, I turned you
Yeah.
off.
Was that intentional, sir? Good evening. The purpose of tonight, yes, is to provide an annual report on our special education services and programs in Belton ISD. And in our report, we'll highlight enrollment trends, eligibility criteria, and some assessment information for you all. I will tell you that we'll look at our academic progress very light this evening. As we get all of our state assessment results in, we will report out on the progress of special programs embedded with a more comprehensive report for all students as well. So let's just get started by looking at the students that we are serving in Belton ISD in special education. It was really important for us for you to see our enrollment trends over time. And what you see in the black bar here is our total enrollment in Belton ISD since 1920. And at the bottom, the red line is our special education percentages, and the gray line is 504. It was important that we put both of those for some eligibility information that I'll share shortly, but also just so that you know, under special programs in our district, we serve both special education and 504. I think it's really important for you to notice that between 1920 and now 25, 26, there's a significant change in the number of students that we're serving in special education. 1695 in the 1920 school year up to 2,899 this school year. So that is a large increase in students eligible for special education. And at the bottom, you can see the percentage. We are serving about 21.4% of our students in special education in Belton ISD, compared to the state that's about 15.9% this year. So let's talk a little bit more about what we see in eligibilities over time. You can see on the right of this graph the different eligibility codes that a student might fall in. Every student has a primary disability identified, some will have a secondary, and some will have a third disability. And so you can see, based on a different line visual, the eligibility of students in Belton ISD. The two greatest areas of growth that we've seen are that top red line is abbreviated. We will often say SLD, and if I slip and say that throughout the presentation, just know that that's a specific learning disability. You see a sharp climb in the number of students with a specific learning disability. And then that black line is our students who are meeting eligibility for autism. We're going to stay here just for a bit because I'm going to highlight some important years within this graph. You can see this started the 1920 school year, this data, when we were in the pandemic and COVID. In 2021, we returned to school. And then I put the bar at the 21-22 school year because there was a significant change in how we identify students for special education during that year. And that was specific to the SLD, or specific learning disability category. Prior to the 21-22 school year, students had to have a significant discrepancy between their cognitive ability and any academic achievement areas. That was changed, and now there just has to be an unexpected, there's an area of unexpectedness between their achievement areas, and it could be in any academic area. So essentially what I'm saying is that the bar for eligibility was lowered, and it resulted in a significant increase in students who met eligibility for specific learning disability as soon as we returned from the pandemic. So students may have gaps between different content areas, achievement-wise, and that would result in going through a testing process and then being identified with a learning disability. In the following year, the 22-23 school year, we could see what was coming legislatively, that we would be required to include students who meet eligibility for dyslexia within special education. Texas was the only state in the nation who did not include students who had dyslexia in special education. So during that year, we made a proactive decision to shift our evaluations to our assessment staff in the district, and they conducted those. And so we started seeing an increase because dyslexia was being included in those counts. In 2023, House Bill 3928 actually made that official, that dyslexia is now considered a specific learning disability. So that dyslexia inclusion and the change in eligibility requirements or assessment criteria for specific learning disability have heavily contributed to that climb. So there's a couple of other things that I think are important really for you all to have awareness of, especially in this last school year. We have been working very hard to improve our identification processes. I did share that our percentage of students is a bit higher than the state, and so we've been working very hard on building multi-tiered systems of support and improving our identification. We also have seen simultaneously with the changes in testing requirements an increase in evaluations that are conducted by our districts. You may or may not know that we as public schools also evaluate students for disabilities who participate in homeschool or in private schools. And so I just wanted to share some of that initial evaluation information with you. During the 24-25 school year, we assessed 645 students, and that number is down in our overall count. We believe that the cause of that is stronger identification practices that we have. But last school year, 24-25, we evaluated 629 students and only had 16 students that we assessed from outside of Belton ISD. This year, we had 545 internal evaluations and 32 outside evaluations. And so we've seen a significant climb in the number of evaluations that we are conducting from outside of Belton ISD. That may not seem like a large number, but to contextualize it, those evaluations are with multiple specialty areas, including diagnosticians. It might be a psychological evaluation. It might include occupational therapy or speech evaluations. And so there's a multidisciplinary team that on average, it takes about 20 hours to conduct an evaluation for any student. So I do want to transition at this time to give you a glimpse of some of our achievement data. This is our STAR Renaissance end of year cohort data. You all have seen this previously as a whole, but I just pulled out some data related to our students in special education. And what you're looking at is the cohort of students' performance at the end of year STAR to end of year STAR. So 24-25 end of year to this year end of year. Same group of students. And what you can see is not a notable amount of change, not a significant standout area of change. We do see gains in 4th and 8th grade in reading with our special education students. Some areas that are really we're needing to highlight and focus on are our 6th and 7th grade student reading cohorts. What you will recall is that those trends mirror what we're seeing with our overall student populations as well, that we do see some gains in 4th and 8th grade and some challenges in transition years with 6th and 7th grade. We are working very closely, and we launched this summer with some pretty intensive professional learning with all of our campuses and what we call their guiding coalitions, which represent teacher leaders on their campuses. working tightly and vertically to study our student performance and plan together systems that will make sure that all of our student groups are put at the forefront when we're analyzing and planning strategies to improve student performance. In the area of math, again, the trend lines mirror what we see with our all student groups. This is cohort data. Highlight areas, we see growth in our 5th and 6th grade cohorts of students who meet eligibility for special education. Here we see challenges in math in 4th and 7th grade, exactly what we have seen with our other student groups as well. And again, we are emphasizing shared professional learning, that we are intentionally making sure that our special programs, special education teachers are included in that professional learning to plan alongside our general education classroom teachers. This year, as we've conducted our needs assessment, a strategy that we added into that process was not only just using our feedback forms, our feedback cycles that are embedded throughout the year, or looking at student performance data, but we had listening sessions with our special education teachers and had small groups for each of the different classrooms along our continuum, as well as with our campus leaders with the respective elementary, middle school, high school areas of our K-12 service. There's some strengths that have emerged that in the last 2 years, there's been a great increase in access to curriculum resources. We have worked to equalize the resources that our special education teachers have access to. We have made significant growth in job-alike learning for our special education teachers, where there's intentional time for them. We take part in a cyclical audit with the education agency, and we've seen notable improvement in there, where our findings have dramatically reduced in our audits, and we are meeting all requirements of the state in our cyclical audits. We see notable progress in inclusive practices across our system, and have been partnering with campuses to support their master scheduling. We do minute reviews with campuses to maximize both our staff and the minutes that we have in our school days. And then a point of pride for many of us is our Delta program services. So I wanted to share these as strengths that have emerged, not only just from our internal review within our department, but these are strengths that were communicated by our staff in our listening sessions. There are clear areas for improvement, and most of those you can see are parallel. You could almost connect the dots across from the strengths. We have greater access to instructional resources, but our teachers need support in how to use them and use them consistently. Our teachers are saying, oh my gosh, the job-embedded, job-alike learning has improved so much. Can we now get into each other's spaces and learn alongside each other and model classrooms that are content-embedded learning? Our administrators have also expressed a desire for that. We've really got to maximize our staff strategically and use them aligned to their strengths within the special education continuum. And there's a need for clarity and refinement of our continuum of services, really making it very clear which area on our continuum is most appropriate in alignment with individual students' needs. And some students' needs are very dynamic. They may need a variety of settings or services along our continuum. We are working very hard to identify common threads within behavioral needs and strengthen our supports for campuses as it relates to behavior. And then we see an ongoing trend and a need to strengthen the transition from pre-K to kindergarten. And that is inclusive of our early childhood special education students, but also our general education students who have a major environmental shift when they go from our pre-K center to their K-5 campuses. So based on all that data, as we move into the coming school year, there will be a continued focus on inclusive practices. What we are hearing loud and clear is that our classrooms where students receive inclusion services need some professional learning and support on how to provide the strongest inclusion supports for students in the classroom. Again, providing clarity on our continuum for how to best align services to students' needs. The tools and resources that I mentioned, the emphasis will be on consistency of use and aligning professional learning to deepen understanding of the curriculum resources that we have, and leveling up our professional learning, celebrating the growth in job-alike opportunities, but now we want to spend that time in each other's spaces in different classrooms along the continuum to learn from each other in the live environment with some models. So with that said, again, this is a high-level annual report of who we serve within special education and what our services look like with some strengths and areas of focus, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I just have one. Gabby, I didn't realize that we were responsible for providing assessments for students outside the district. That was news to me. So you said there's about 16 students, about 20 hours. That's 320 hours per year. Is there any compensation we get from the state for those hours?
Yeah, so we actually are very thankful that there was dollars allocated in the last legislative session to support that. We receive $1,000 for every initial evaluation. And again, we are very thankful for that. When you consider the hours associated, around 16 to 20 hours per student, we are not seeing that cost offsets the actual evaluation, especially with the increase that we've seen this year and outside. But again, we are extremely thankful for the contribution and that dollar amount that we did not have before.
I just have a follow-up question to that. So if a student from BISD, an initial evaluation comes in that a student needs to be tested, at the same time that a student outside of the district comes in, is it just who comes first of who gets the evaluation done first? Do our students get I mean, because I have a follow-up question to that too, but go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, so our child find laws require you follow timeline associated with the moment in time that consent is obtained or requested for evaluation. And so we examine the assessments being conducted, and we can prioritize based on the needs and balancing staff demands, but the timeline for consent and request for testing is what drives that.
Okay.
So if you look at the time period in which the change was made in dyslexia services moving from 504 to special education, at the same time, we're also doing outside evaluations for students that are not enrolled in Belton ISD. You can imagine the pressure that has put on staff, and so it's having the effect of driving up staffing costs as well.
Okay. Yeah, actually, y'all answered what I was going to ask.
There also has been those timelines with ask in the community, even associations with the education savings accounts. There were misalignments in dates for closing of applications for those. And so that put additional pressure on our staff to conduct evaluations for people who were pursuing those savings accounts as well. A lot of pressure on families as well in that, but absolutely, there's conflicting time frames that have happened, and it puts a tremendous amount of stress on our staff.
Yeah, question. Gabby, looking at your the reading and math and then the cohort for math, for the 7th grade, I was just looking at the differences in some of those, but gosh, that was a big one.
It is.
Yeah, have we pinpointed what's up with that?
Yes, so it follows a similar trend to our general education students. And if you all remember, in our math pathways, once students enter middle school, they may split into advanced pathways or stay in on-level pathways. And so we historically have seen a significant dip in 7th grade, more pronounced in our district because of the way we make pathway decisions. This also follows a trend across the state, that this is the highest dip that we see in any student performance in math across the state. The standards are changed. One other thing of note that's unique to a 7th grade assessment is that we teach students how to use calculation devices as a part of our standards and a part of a strategy in math, and in 7th grade they are not permitted to do that. And so that is one causal factor that contributes, but also our pathway decisions contribute to that. And once students get into 8th grade and 9th grade, our decision actually yields higher outcomes than the states because of the path that we have chosen with math in middle school.
Could you explain a little bit more, Gabby, on what you mean by pathway decision? Explain the implications of how that impacts testing decisions.
So historically, the testing decisions, a student might be in 7th grade and be taking an 8th grade assessment because they have chosen a different pathway than others. And so the group of students in 7th grade, I'm going to make up numbers here. In 6th grade, I may have had 130 students in my 6th grade cohort, but because when we go into 7th grade, they make multiple different pathway decisions, that number of students does not stay the same cohort size in 7th grade as if we were just following the exact same group, because some of the students would go to an 8th grade test and some would stay on a 7th grade test.
So if that's the case, so can we expect the same kind of thing to happen next year?
In our 7th grade data,
Right.
what we can expect to see, because it matches trends over time across the state, not just Belton ISD, that 7th grade is a challenging year for us. I want to change that trajectory, so it's hard for me to say we expect that. I expect to see improvement. I will tell you this summer when we look at all of our data, we made an intentional decision this year to adjust assessment decisions, and so you'll see a change in our STAR data that shows a change in 8th grade and 7th grade to reflect that we're shifting a trend. And so I think I hate to put it off until this month in our academic workshop, but I'd provide better context with that in that workshop.
I have another question. On the growth by eligibility chart, so I understand that our students that are identified under SLD, that you can be identified, your dyslexia students are, do you know off the top of your head the percentage of students of that 1,245 that are identified, that their SLD is really because of dyslexia? I guess my question is, there's such a huge growth in the number of students that are being, 21%, that's huge.
It's huge.
And you can also see it's after COVID.
So I do have the count. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you.
no, go ahead, because you may answer what I'm about to ask next too.
Will you finish your question real quick, because I'm...
Well, as you're looking.
Yeah.
I guess a potential concern I have is, why are so many students all of a sudden now being identified? I mean, I know that the eligibility has changed because we've now absorbed dyslexia. But are these true learning disabilities, or could it be contributed to maybe something else? I'm just curious how we've gone in 6 years from 462 students, up to almost 1,300 students.
Yeah, so your question...
In the SLD category, if you will.
So your question is exactly why I put those animated bars in there, because of the systemic change that happened. What I do like to say is, because there's a battery of assessments, we can't not meet eligibility. We use data, we
Right.
use research-based assessments to identify students, and this is absolutely a statewide trend. However, the criteria to meet eligibility did change and did result in a dramatic increase in students. And the biggest change is the cognitive discrepancy ruling, where before this change, you had to take the students' cognitive abilities and their academic achievement abilities, and there had to be a discrepancy that was unexplained there.
Okay.
Now there just has to be an unexpected achievement gap, meaning I might be performing significantly lower in reading than math, and that is the discrepancy. So that's a significant
Okay.
change that
Yeah.
lowers the bar, really, in how you meet eligibility. So if you think about, and the timing, we had kids who had very interrupted education for a year and a half in the pandemic. We know that the state is still recovering from those gaps academically. A significant gap could have contributed to an eligibility that, if a child had had education consistently, we may not have seen that.
So do we not, because we don't have to have that or the cognitive data, do we, I guess we just don't even do that? Or do we, do our
We
do they still do that?
Absolutely we do. And it is
Okay.
extremely important. That assessment, the FIE is so critically important for us to understand how students learn. So I might have an academic gap, but that assessment tells me all of the students' strengths and weaknesses as a learner and would tell you how to approach a learner.
Okay.
So absolutely, we still do that and believe that it's critically important.
Do we do that to just go above and beyond, or is that still just required to have those cognitive testings as
No,
part of?
it's still required.
Okay.
You correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. But I feel pretty confident in it. So yes, it is still very much a part of our practices and it's part of the requirements.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I got a couple items for you. Can we get back to the initial evaluation slide, please? Yeah. So when you were going through the slide, sort of talking about the drop from 645 assessments to 577 assessments, and I think you said you attributed it to some extent because of the way that we're doing identification, right? So can you talk to me a little bit about, tell me more about that, right? Like, so
Yeah.
tell me more about like how we're identifying these students outside of the assessments that we're talking about here.
Yeah, so anytime you evaluate a student, you want to ensure that if a child has presented academic difficulty in the classroom, that you've actually intervened with the student and used interventions with consistency in the classroom to improve their performance, to improve how they're achieving academically, and not go straight to a referral. When a student has academic difficulty, it doesn't mean that they have a learning disability automatically. And what the team has done, it has been a very, very intentional focus between special education, between our general education intervention teams, to build out what we've talked to you all about as our multi-tiered systems of support. And I'm going to talk about it in our next presentation as well. The layers of support in place for a student should, over time, reduce the number of students that are being evaluated for special education because you're intervening earlier, you're being proactive, and being responsive to the needs of students. And so we have been working on improving those processes, which I believe are yielding fewer evaluations, and those that are going through are quality evaluations.
Okay. I might add that to the strengths column. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, so to just kind of feed off of Rucker's question around the costs, I mean, do we have the ability to track the costs that we're actually incurring for the outside students? Could we get to that number if we wanted to?
We can, yes, and I can do follow-up with you all on that. It would be a balance of considering like the certifications that individuals hold, how much time is spent with students. So it takes a
Yeah, I
little
mean,
bit of work
what I'm
and
trying to
we
get
have
to,
do
right, is
it.
like, we know there's a lot going on from a special education funding standpoint right now, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll leave it there for a moment, right? And so as we're participating in some of the conversation, like this might be an interesting piece of information to have as we're having conversations with folks. So yeah, like just as a follow-up, if we could get to that might be interesting.
I will put that follow-up information in board bulletin.
Yeah, so when we look at the 2,899 students that are part of our special ed population, so when we go to like the reading cohort data slide, how many of those students are represented on this slide right here? Is that all 2,899? Is it a subset of the 2,899?
It is. So if a student is, so this is 3rd through 8th on this slide.
Mm-hmm.
If a student is participating in instruction that is modified, or they're receiving inclusion support with just accommodations, they are included in here. A student who's in an alternate classroom who does not have grade level content is not necessarily included in here.
Okay. And then when we look at these bars, I should know the answer to this question, but so the gray bar is the same set of students from last year? Okay, so when we look ahead, say, for like the math data, right, that 7th grade math data, we would expect the gray bar in 8th grade next year essentially to be 19, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Or higher.
Well, ideally higher, yes, absolutely. As the representing this year, right? Okay. what can we do? Do you need anything from us? So is there anything from a policy perspective? You know, I'll throw funding out there, although I don't know how flexible we really, how much flexibility we have there, right? But is there something that we can do that you need from us to better support what's going on in a special program standpoint?
I think the conversation and questions that were asked here are pretty meaningful, just contextualizing and understanding. We talk a lot about the increased needs related to special education or the increased staffing. You guys asked some really meaningful questions about this eligibility and the growth to help to understand that. So I would ask that you continue asking those questions for clarity. This is a very complex issue. When we figure out the special education funding formula and we're calculating those, understand the complex needs for us. You are huge champions. You're huge champions for all of the inclusive initiatives that we have related to our special education students. Please keep doing that and asking these questions. It's important for us.
I'll add a couple of things. One, when you look at the increase nationally in students receiving special education in the same amount of time, it's around if I averaged up 13% national increase in students receiving special education services. Texas represents a huge percentage of that increase nationally because of the change with dyslexia. And so one, I think making sure, and we can follow up with you and show how we're comparing nationally, not just what's happening locally. The conversation we had in workshop tied to budget, this is significantly impacting the pressure that we're seeing on the M&O side of our budget. So as I shared in workshop, each year that we have been reducing expenditures, at the same time, we're adding staffing in the area of special education services, because then if you triangulate that to what we hear in listening session data and what we heard from community members when y'all were developing legislative priorities last time, it was around special education staffing. We need more staff, we need more funding. Now we're anxiously awaiting what happened in the last legislative session to see if some of that relief came. We don't know yet, but we're anxiously waiting for that. But I would say you are helping address it, because even in the scenarios we showed you tonight in workshop on budget included an approximate 1.9, I think, Todd, am I getting that right? Close, $1 million increase in staffing costs, most of which was special education. So understanding that it's like you're cutting, but you're adding staff, we are having to add staff to support students receiving special education services because of the data that you're looking at right there. And so those additional assessments are putting a strain on assessment staff. We added, I believe last year, this is where I get dangerous, I thought we added some evaluation staff, at least in the last couple of years, trying to address some of these things. And so I would say continued awareness and participation in the budget process, and that's part of why you're seeing an increase in staffing, is to address these things, because this is what our teachers are saying they're feeling. They feel the need for additional supports in the area of special education, and our general education staff has said very clearly in listening sessions this year, they need the training as well. And so appreciate the focus and recognition that the team has really done a good job on what we call job-alike training. So ensuring if I'm I'll just use for right now, self-contained teacher, that's not our vocabulary, but let's say I am and I'm the only one on a campus, that I have the ability to have quality professional learning with you at a different campus. Like, we've received feedback that professional learning has really improved. And so thank you to Sarah and Kitty and team. But our general education teachers are also needing that, because they are doing a lot of the service at the Tier 1 level for our students. So engagement in the budget conversation, we'll be talking about legislative priorities and what additional support. It's just hard to know what support we're asking for when we're not quite sure yet the implications of the support that was put in the last legislative session. So that we're just going to have to wait and see on what that actually looks like and how it impacts Belton ISD. So,
Aaron, I wanted to answer your question. You asked about the percentage of students in our total SLD for dyslexia. I had the count, but not the, so we have 8% of our students in the district are identified as dyslexic. Of the SLD students, 1,137 of those are students who, one of their, and remember they can have a primary, a secondary, or a tertiary eligibility, but 1,137 of those students are dyslexic as well.
I want to say thank you for bringing us the data, right? I mean, you can't continue to move forward unless you know what's going on, right? And so I think it's really important that we look at this data and continue going forward. I want to say just a massive thank you to everybody in our special programs, right? Top to bottom. This is such a special offering, if you want to call it that, for the group. Everything that goes on, you know, both inside and outside of the classroom is just so important and so impactful. So, you know, while we're poking at some of these numbers, right, I mean, thank you for everything that's going on in the special programs world. Last call. All right, I think we're going on to the LASSO grant, Blue Bonnet Math Implementation Report.
Okay, you noticed that Gabby did not leave the podium. She is doing this report as well this evening. As you recall, board, we adopted, you approved a new curriculum in the area of math, and that implementation has started. We'll do full implementation next year. So Gabby's going to give you a highlight as well as some support that we're getting from the LASSO grant specifically to support our math curriculum implementation.
Absolutely. So our purpose tonight is to consider, discuss, and take action on the use of our LASSO funds that we were awarded to support the implementation of Bluebonnet curriculum in our district. And I am excited to share with you the work that's already started. I am extremely proud of Jennifer Williams, who is our elementary math coordinator, and Christy Chandler, who have put a phenomenal implementation plan in place. One of the strongest that I have ever seen, and I would love to be on the receiving end at the classroom level of the intense level of support for implementation, and I'm just very proud of that. So we applied for a competitive grant. You've heard me use interchangeably LASSO, LIFT, and I'm going to introduce another one in this presentation. But the LASSO grants are an umbrella of grants that are competitive that TEA has available for us. And we pursued the LIFT grant, which stands for Leadership and Instructional Foundations for Texas, within this LASSO umbrella. And we were awarded $743,000 to support our implementation of Bluebonnet Math. 70% of those dollars have to go to an approved provider. TEA has an interview process and rubrics that they use to evaluate vendors. And then we are able to review those vendors, and then we conduct our own interviews to narrow who we will work with. But 70% of the funds must go to that vendor for support, and then you're able to hold back 30% for district discretion. And so you see those amounts there. We have interviewed and have initiated some work with Great Minds because they've been supporting in our district already. But if we were to move forward with Great Minds, 70% of the money would go to them, really to bring in their expert professional learning around the pedagogy from Bluebonnet and the research-based practices that would also support the materials and some observation and coaching cycles that would take place in our classrooms across the district, not only with teachers, but also with campus leaders around implementation and what we should be seeing with those resources. From district discretion, we have made the decision to have an implementation specialist that will really help facilitate the implementation across all of our campuses. The person would support with what we call internalization, not lesson planning, but we have these high quality instructional materials right now. The person would support our teachers in internalizing those materials to support rollout in the classroom, making sense of those and supporting shifts and practices. The 30% we would also put towards intervention resources that are aligned and embedded within the Bluebonnet materials for students who are not experiencing success with the first time instruction, but that would align directly to it. And then a digital infrastructure is not a digital learning platform, but a digital infrastructure for teaching tools, slide presentations, presentation resources, planning resources for our teachers could be used within this 30%. So those are the ratios. I want to tell you a little bit about what our intent is. The primary objective of our implementation of Bluebonnet is to ensure high quality instruction in each one of our classrooms with Tier 1 instruction. When we say Tier 1, that means first time instruction with students. And we want to see that consistently in every K through 5 classroom. As you know, we took all of our teachers through math academies last year. We made the decision to adopt Bluebonnet materials, started some implementation this year, and the intended outcome is to see measurable gains in achievement, to see advanced problem solving with our students, and to make sure that they have deep conceptual understanding of math concepts. For us, success would be that in all of our K through 5 classrooms, we would see our teachers implementing that curriculum with fidelity, and we want to see intense support for them with implementation. Oftentimes, we will adopt a resource, and I don't mean we as in Belton ISD, I would mean we as educators. We adopt a resource, and then we don't have the personnel support for full implementation and to train teachers embedded in the classroom with those resources. That's what this grant will help us with. Implementation success would be a change in rigor of instruction, that our teachers are demonstrating research-based strategies and aligned practices. This is not at all to imply that we don't have exceptional teachers, but this is a shift in practices and working towards aligning all of our practices across the system. And then success with implementation would also see gains in our student performance across the system, in particular on high priority learning standards. So we've articulated 3 different phases for implementation, and the first one is really the work that I've been talking to you all about with pre-implementation of all of the resources. We've been working on leadership readiness. All of our principals have been trained in the Bluebonnet resources and research-based instructional practices. We have been identifying an execution team is what I would call it, like what would be the support team for rollout that needs training. There's an element of materials management. The adoption of this resource is organized very differently than we've had before. The consumables, meaning the materials in students' hand, the manipulatives, they are different than we've used historically. So there's an element of materials management. And then the pre-learning and needs assessment. This isn't just learning directed at people, but we've been in classrooms assessing where instruction is right now in comparison to the new instructional materials. This has also been a season of Jennifer, our coordinator, put a specific module from Bluebonnet resources in every grade level curriculum documents this year. So each of our teachers has had experience with that, and she's been participating with them in planning throughout the year. Phase 2 would be the actual launch and system setup, where we continue building teacher capacity. This summer, they've had availability to them self-paced exploration learning combined with in-person learning experiences. And so there's a summer learning series, and then at August Ignite, everybody will have professional learning and Bluebonnet rollout. This will be the first year, and we talk often about providing differentiated learning, and we have a really fantastic plan in place where teachers, the training that they have in August will be based on the training that they've already had. So those who have taken part in self-paced learning or the summer learning series will have a slightly different experience than those who are just starting at level 1 in our August Ignite learning. And then phase 3 is a coaching cycle. And a coaching cycle means for our leaders, it means for our teachers, it means for our instructional coaches. And this is a rigorous, the external coaches from Great Minds would come in, and not only are they coaching at the classroom level, but they are also taking part in professional learning communities with teachers for that internalization process. and they're coaching principals. And that looks like principals observing instruction and then sitting with the coach around the feedback that they would be giving teachers in alignment with those research-based practices. Here's the additional terminology I'm going to introduce to you. Our leadership team at Southwest Elementary wanted to pursue some additional dollars to just intensify the support on their campus, and so they applied for Strong Foundations implementation. It's just an add-on specifically devoted to support Southwest Elementary. Again, it would be ongoing instructional support, but it would be monthly in person with their campus. And again, it would also include that coaching for the leadership team and some support for sub-pay if needed or extended day if needed for teachers to continue engaging in planning cycles. Here's our tiered system of support. We use a visual like this often to describe our multi-tiered systems of support, but really this is just the layers to summarize all of what I just talked to you about. The foundation is just this funding structure and support that's in place through the LIFT grant and the Strong Foundations financial support that we have for building infrastructure in our system. Then we will invest in our leadership capacity first. We believe that our leaders have to have the knowledge in order to invest in their teachers and classroom practices, and then the instructional supports and materials for students for both Tier 1 and intervention supports that will yield stronger student outcomes in math. So I hope that you can hear a connection between the Math Academy training that we provided to all of our teachers, the adoption of these high-quality instructional resources, and an intensive support plan for implementation this school year. And with that, any questions?
First of all, great job getting this grant. The $743,000 grant, is that something that we can obtain annually?
It is. So the grants will evolve, but all of the TEA grants have been put into this LASSO umbrella, and so we will have the opportunity to pursue grant funds annually based on what we are doing in our district.
Is there anything that TEA requires in terms of showing positive use of the funds, showing some results and increasing our likelihood of obtaining it again?
Yes, so we, in the application, we had to communicate the outcomes that we are working to achieve, but I will also say related to TEA requirements, one of the reasons that we were approved this grant is because we had adopted Bluebonnet. And so because that is a TEA high quality instructional material, that made us able to be eligible for this LASSO grant. If we were not using one of the HQIM resources, we would not have been eligible for the grant.
Okay. And then you mentioned on the $120,000, the SFI award, you mentioned the folks at Southwest Elementary, they were responsible for heading that off, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Felicia and her team, actually, they were awarded the Strong Foundations grant last year as well. And what we have seen is some very positive, especially once we got through semester, once some habits really started forming and internalization and planning, they really found great value in the support that they were having. And so Felicia wanted to pursue these grant funds again so that she can continue the support with her teachers.
I think it's just another example of the folks over at Southwest doing what they can to improve things. I mean, it's great to hear that. Thank you.
I agree.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is more clarifying, so I apologize if you said it and it didn't stick with me. So on the 70% for approving a provider, so is it my understanding that we're going to contract with Great Minds to help with the implementation of Bluebonnet Math?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're coming in and helping, especially on that other slide of implementation. They're going to really help us implement this with fidelity by their help, right? Is that
Yes.
kind of, okay, I want to make sure I just
So
understood
they are
that.
experts in the research-based math practices as well as the embedding of those
Okay.
into the Bluebonnet resources.
Okay.
And so they are one of the companies that we interviewed that were approved vendors by the agency. They have been working with Southwest as well. And so Our team has spent quite a bit of time with them, interviewing them as well, and assessing the quality of supports, and we feel pretty highly confident in their ability to support us with implementation.
That's great. And then another question I had, and I know you said that some of this jumpstart, now let me get to the implementation phases on that slide. So I see through the summer, you've got these summer learning series, and it's not required for our K through 5 teachers to come in and take this, correct?
No.
Are there incentives? Because I guess, and I'm not, I'm not encouraging teachers to take time away from their summer. They need a break. I guess what I'm just saying is if teachers get a leg up before school starts, I just see the student outcomes could be a correlation of better because they're already prepared. Are there incentives for them? And I don't know how much time the summer learning series is, but I guess a question I have is because we have a portion of that's discretion by the district, could they get paid $100 to come to, I don't know if that's accurate, I'm just throwing that question out there, but are there incentives or just encouraging teachers, especially even new teachers, first-year teachers, I just see that as a benefit, but are there incentives or anything like that to participate in the summer? Again, I'm not encouraging teachers to take time off from their summer break, but just
many
curious.
prefer it, just so you know. And over the last 2 years, we've tried to put all of our summer learning, which used to be just, I would call them random acts of professional learning. They were just random over calendar, and we have put our professional learning into 2 weeks in the summer, so it feels like a professional conference. So it feels different, and many educators prefer that time. There's less noise. Like, I can focus on the learning, and my conference period doesn't end in 50 minutes, right? So that's one thing people prefer. Some prefer summer learning. But we also built our academic calendar where we have professional learning days throughout the year, and some are tagged as exchange days. And so if I participate an incentive in summer learning, then I can trade that or exchange that for a professional learning day on our academic calendar as well.
Anybody else? You guys asked great questions. You took all mine. No, thank you very much. So how did we don't have a dedicated grant writing team, right? I mean, so where are we supporting this from?
From our teaching and learning team.
Okay.
I will tell you, Jennifer, she just is very, very proactive and has been very thoughtful. And so our team has come together and said, what should we pursue? And it is not just teaching and learning. All of our teams have explored what's available, but we submitted the grant. And she took the lead on that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I don't have anything else. All right.
So here's interesting of note, I just want to call out to you all. So we were awarded the grant funds. You'll see on our consent agenda, you all approving the use of grant funds. And so everything that we discussed in here would be improved on, or would be included on that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're off the hook. At least for now.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to roll into board committee reports. So we'll start with the policy committee. Oh, no? We're not going to do that? Yes. I know, I just saw the slide come up. Sorry. All right, yeah, no, it's okay. All right, board committee reports. So we'll start with the policy committee.
So we met a couple of weeks ago, and again, this is all in your packet, but I'll just give you a little bit of context behind some of them. So first one was in our board operating procedures. We just needed to update officers because we just changed that last May. But we also noted that we needed to update to reflect that policy change last month where on public comments for agenda items versus non-agenda items, if it's apparent in the district or not. We just needed to make sure that that was reflected in our board operating procedures as well. We had a couple of local policy updates, and you'll see there's one in a local policy, but it was also in policy 126. You see that they're very similar, and I'll touch base with them on those in just a sec. But CH Local on purchasing and acquisition, this was a legislative change. So as you know that when we purchase goods and services at $50,000 or more, we had to have board required, but now that threshold has been increased to $100,000. And then that just essentially helps with timelines on acquiring items. And then another one we did was FFAC Local on wellness and health services. So if you recall last month, we brought to you a policy change where when we talked about students who needed to take over-the-counter medications, where they didn't have to have a physician's approval or a written consent. It just needed a parent consent. So we have reversed that. They got some really great feedback and insight from our health service leaders here, and just their perspective, and that really just believe it's best practice to have the physician's consent to give those over-the-counter medications, because ultimately it's about keeping kids safe. And so we just wanted to bring that back, and was really appreciative of hearing just their insight and perspective on that change, and believe that we just needed to keep that as is. And so that was that one. And then policy 126 update. So again, you heard me say in CH local, this is CB local. The construction contracts, also we increased that threshold to 100,000 instead of 50,000 board approval. And that was really just to align the consistency, especially if we had to be audited. It would be good to just have that threshold at the same. Would that be fair to how we talked about that? Okay. Then we talked about EEP local. This was new from legislation, that teachers are to provide their instructional plan, or basically their course syllabi, to the district and also families. We're really already doing this. We've got on our Parents as Partners page, parents can get on and see the year at a glance, as well as other instructional materials. Also, we talked about EIA local on academic achievement regarding grading reports. There were some really weird clerical revisions where it would say 9, and then they would mark it out, and then it would say 9 again. So just nothing really notable on some of those clerical. But they did add in that the district shall provide at least 2 opportunities for conferences with parents. We do the one in the fall, the big one, and then teachers also provide an opportunity if they would like to have a conference again. So we're doing that as well. But also in that same policy regarding academic honesty, they added in the use of AI, academic dishonesty, I guess you will. The use of using, sorry, I'm trying to get through these fast for you. The use of AI to complete an assignment in part or in whole would be considered academic dishonesty. We also had a conversation about, is there a tool out there that can detect if kids are actually using AI? And currently there's not anything that's really reliable or really accurate, but we'll just continue to have those conversations. And then the last one was EHBAF local. And this one pertained to the special education video monitoring. So it used to say that it was in a self-contained classroom, and now they changed the language to more broader term to say special education classroom. And then they made also another change on the reporting of an incident. So if there was something that was alleged and there was a video in there, that they had to have a report filed within 24 hours of any facts that have been given, what am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say, to the allegation. The end. That was our June policy meeting. Riley, did I miss anything? Sorry, I try to go
That's just a lot
fast.
of policies, and I'm glad that you did that. Thank you.
We're the fun committee.
All right. Thank you, Policy Committee. We are going to the Budget Committee.
We're the funnest committee.
The funnest committee.
Yeah, by far. So if you were in the workshop, which all of us were there a little while ago, pretty much everything we heard for about 1 hour is what we discussed in the in the Budget Committee. So I won't belabor the details too much, but going over different scenarios that we have as we're looking forward to a final recommendation from staff on budget as we get closer to August for next fiscal year. 3 different scenarios where we would increase the cost for personnel up by 1.2% or 1.5% overall, or potentially even call an evader as a third option for us. The trade-off between the scenario 1 and 2 would be the difference in personnel cost and difference in costs we would have for maintenance and facilities that would come out of M&O budget. So that's a general overview, and then one thing we're waiting on to hear about our appeal on some funds would be an additional $2 million, which we would hear at some point in the future. We don't have a date, but some point.
Hopefully by August.
Hopefully by August.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, Facilities Committee.
All right, Facilities Committee, known as the former President's Committee.
The senior committee.
Really not a whole lot. One really great piece of information that came out of it. First one's just the Charter Oak property, an easement with the City of Temple. The easement already exists. There's nothing new. It's moving over like 24 inches, and then they'll have to do some construction through that property. It doesn't change our property at all. It was just an agreement. The easement's already there. We're just letting them do what they were going to do anyways. There was also a TEA facility use report. If any of y'all would like to get a copy, I'm sure they can send it to you. It took, I don't want to know how long to create, and I don't know why we did it, but we were told we had to do it. It's a very detailed report that breaks down every location we have by all these different parameters. TEA doesn't even know what they're going to do with the information at this point, but it is a huge spreadsheet. So thanks to all of those who put it together. It would have been a nightmare to put together, especially when you don't know why you're doing it. Thankfully, they didn't make us go into great detail on it. Procurement and construction went over a few of the items that we're doing. And then the fact that we are the fund committee, if you looked in the packet, the community garden project, where we took that old house that had the cellar and the ghosts and all that lived in it over here, and we bought that property a few years ago, cleaned it. We had a neighbor who came to us, and when I say us, not us, actually to Dr. Coach Mike Morgan, and said, you know, it's kind of an eyesore. Have you thought about doing anything with it? And through that kind of evolved into the idea of having a community garden project out there. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It will take some time, but we got to see the layouts of it. It would very much be a community project, but it would also involve our students. It would involve, I mean, it's not just something we would put out there and be like, hey, this is done, and then you walk away. It's a park. I mean, it's a community garden park owned by Belton ISD. The projects would be done by our students. Of course, initial construction, there's not that much of it, would be done by somebody else, but the majority of it would be our students and our staff, master gardeners throughout the community, and just something nice for the community. And it would be very nice. I mean, it's right here in this area. I think I'm pointing in the right direction. You know, back, you know, between us and Shipley's, that's the only way I know how to determine that area. But it was a great idea. Even Dr. Golden was excited about it. They had renderings of old people in there drinking coffee. It was really good though. If you get a chance to look over the packet, it's probably, we didn't have a hard time frame on it. We're going to start applying for grants. There's a lot of different opportunities out there. Our CT students, you know, between ag and the construction trades and all that, going to be a great opportunity. It's just going to be something that it'll evolve over time. So, besides that, did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
No, we had a good meeting.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
You
Great
wanna defend
job, Mike.
yourself, or?
I really don't
Hey-
know how to
hey,
take
Chris.
that feedback.
Hey, Chris, I want to say that, great job by Mike Morgan on that spreadsheet. I mean, that was, I can't believe he did all that. It is tedious work.
The TEA required spreadsheet.
Oh, it's
yeah.
horrible.
I was going to say that was all Mike Morgan, so thank you very much. Those are, when you think about unfunded mandates, the amount of time it took Mike to do that was pretty significant. And so we hope it ends up informing something, but as of right now, we're not really sure, but it did meet a requirement of TEA and of the district to do it. And also wanted to say thank you to Mike. I am very excited. Thank you very much about the garden. We will be coming to y'all in a future meeting with a report on that, just to bring everybody up. We want to show you plans and talk to you with more detail. So we really are excited about the convergence of community interests, but also student learning projects and how it will support our students at Bex, at New Tech, at Delta, and the DAEP. So thank you to Mike for leading that work as well.
All right, thanks. All right, yeah, thank you all for your participation in the committees, right? We just had a committee reshuffle, and so a couple new folks and a couple new committees, and so thank you for your participation. I did take the opportunity to drop in on the fund committee, the budget committee, the funnest committee. So I had the opportunity to stay there. And, you know, no decisions are ever made, right, in the committees, right? They're always brought here, and so you see the workshop, you see, you know, the policy items in the consent agenda here. But there's a lot of good work that goes into it. And so thank you for you all for participating, and a massive thank you to the staff for all of the work that goes into, you know, the work that we cover and the topics that we cover there. It really helps us to stay informed. So thank you so much. All right.
Okay.
The superintendent's report, I believe, is next.
Yes, so have had a lot of fun since the last time we met in a board meeting. As you know, we graduated amazing students from Belton ISD. So thank you all so much in helping celebrate our students. Thank you to our high school principals, to our communications team, and lots of folks that work behind the scenes to actually pull off a graduation ceremony. And so incredibly proud of our students when we think about our vision of, which is now our mission. I've got to change that slide. I apologize, of empowering each and every learner to pursue their dreams and enrich their communities. I feel like we just launched an incredible group of young men and women to do just that. So thank y'all for your support of graduation and the families and the students who've worked hard. It's a special day for them. Graduation ended and we jumped right back to work. So these are just a few fun pictures from us bringing together all of our campus and district leaders we do an end of the year retreat and we do a retreat to kick off the year. We have a little bit of fun, you can see. I'm happy to report no one was injured in the tug of war. There might have been a little cheating by a few teams, not calling anybody out in the audience, but it was just lots of fun. And we come together to really reflect on the year that just passed, what went well, what are our challenges, and we spent majority of this day in a deep dive into the evolving strategic plan and really looking at the strategic objectives that you approved as a board and really understanding what that looks like 5 years from now and how we can align as a system. So campus improvement plans, department improvement plans, strategic plans. So a lot of good work went into that retreat. We launched summer school. So again, we graduate students and we start school again. Had the opportunity to be in summer school last week and talk to some of our students and see the awesome experiences that they're having. You see here some of it summer school, some of it summer enrichment experiences. So just a shout out to the staff. I will tell you, I went over to Southwest and they had made cookies and brownies for the teachers. They were celebrating and supporting the teachers who were working summer school. I saw lots of smiling staff and students. Our students had just come out of a dance class. They were still dancing in the hallway. They were proud to share their moves. Thank you to our community partners. I know CGI helped with coding camp. We've had UMHB helping with the Quest Healthcare camp. We've had basketball camps, all kinds of incredible experiences for our students already. And I'll just end with this. So had the opportunity to watch these incredible young men represent the state of Texas in construction trades at the Skills USA national competition. And I was sharing with Riley a little earlier, one of the most amazing experiences is watching these young men. So they basically built a small house. They did the plumbing, they did the electrical work, they did masonry work, they shingled, they built a, what would you call it, a window box on the outside. They built stairs to another level. They have X amount of time to do this. What impressed me the most is when the time is up, they did not rush over to us. They didn't go run and have a snack. They actually bound together as a team and they critiqued their own work. So they were able to go piece by piece in their construction and talk about what went well and what didn't go well. They learned so much through the process. They did not make it into the top 3. You would not have known it from these young men. Nobody pouted, nobody was upset, nobody was angry. They knew instantly because they were able to reflect on their own work and coach each other and know what they would need to do moving forward. That, when I think about Journey of a Graduate competencies, they collaborated, they persevered. By the way, the math skills they have to utilize, they were surprised with, oh, and by the way, you don't get a calculator for this either. I would argue that doesn't happen in the real world in construction. You want them to have access to all of their tools. They didn't even have those tools, and they did an amazing job. Each of these individuals are going to different universities, different programs, pursuing passions within this umbrella, and that's what you want from our programs. You want students not to, like 100% of the students you're looking at are not going to go necessarily and be master plumbers. But the student in that picture who's passionate about that is, and he already has certifications towards that. You have students who want to go in an architecture pathway. They want to go into construction management pathway. And so this picture, to me, when I think about graduation and students walking across the stage, and what we hope in terms of knowledge, skills, and the work that we're doing in our CTE programs, these young men exemplify that. One of them is returning. He's a senior next year. He will be the leader of this team, and I'm excited to see what we do next year at both the state level, and I'm confident we'll once again make it to the national level. So that's the fun I've been having in the last month.
The CTE programs, right? I mean, this is the fairy dust, right? The special sauce, right? It just brings all the skills and capabilities together, right? Excellent. Okay, any questions? No? All right, so we're going to go to board highlights real quick, right? So this is our opportunity to share any prominent highlights from the last month. If you need to give anybody a shout out, anybody want to get us started? Jeff?
I'll start. Dr. Golden stole my thunder on one of them, whatever. The graduation, it was, I think this is my 10th or 11th one. The amount of work that gets put into graduation is absolutely amazing. It has run better and better every single year. And I just thank you because of all the countless people that are involved in putting it together. It's 3 different campuses brought on, put on, and just thank you. It was they do such a great job. I think we kind of take it for granted because we just show up and sit on a stage. But if you just watch what goes on and the amount of work that we know goes into it. So thank you. And then the other one is not a board highlight, but it is a thank you. I do not, I spent most of my adult life driving to North Belton and to North Belton Middle and then to Lake, dropping off kids and doing all that. I don't have them there anymore, so I'm really not there. And this is just complete ignorance on my part, and I'm so wrong. But I want to take my hat off to the City of Temple, the City Council, for the water tower. It is absolutely, I had not seen it. I'm not there anymore. And so I remember when they first started talking, when the City Council first started talking about it, because that is a Belton campus. That is the Bronco campus. But that part is Temple too. We know that we share. That is what we are. We are a combined community. And I just happened to get a chance to be over there the other day and actually just look at it and just thank you to the City of Temple. They didn't have to do that. I think it became a mission of a few of them to get it done because it's what's been done at other campuses around Temple. And it wasn't free. But they did a great job. If you get a chance, go look at it. The artwork is fun. It is the community that is there. And so just thank you to the City of Temple and the City Council there for getting that done.
I went to a historic event. This was this past Saturday. For a lot of you folks that haven't been here as long as I have, but we had a band director in Belton. His name was Richard Crane, and he came to Belton in 1965. And a few years after that, he took over as band director for the Marching 100. And what happened on Saturday, through the efforts of the Marching 100 Alumni Association, and I know there's other folks, and then in conjunction with the director of the Bell County Museum, Mr. Crane was here. I never met him until Saturday. And I told him, I said, I used to watch you guys march, and it was a joy to watch the Marching 100 then. They had a big screen there, and you could see them marching, and I was watching, and I was telling some of the folks there, I said, you know, that doesn't look like a high school band. I think there were 200 of them in the band. But what they did was they brought the banner, because they marched in the Rose Bowl parade in 1974. So they brought the banner there, and there's going to be a display forever now at the Bell County Museum honoring the 1974 band. And if I heard Mr. Crane correctly, it was the only band, high school band in Texas, that was invited to participate in the Rose Bowl. And of all the participants of the bands, they're the only band that actually, every one of the band members was able to make it through the entire route without pulling out. And you watch some of the footage of that, and it's incredible. So if you ever have a chance to go to the Bell County Museum, go see the display of the 1974 Marching 100. So grounded in history from here on. So that was fun.
I mean, other than graduation, I'd love to give a big shout out to just our athletic department. I know that those men and women are literally up at the school every day because I'm taking my kids up there just about every day. But I would be willing to say it's not hundreds, it's thousands of kids that are getting to go to camps. And I just love it. I know I probably say it every year, but you know, and just because you live on one part of the district doesn't mean you don't get to go to do Bronco stuff and vice versa. And I love that because I think it just shows that we're one big red community, and my kids have gotten to know kids from other schools because of those summer camps, and they get to meet them at basketball camp. And it doesn't matter if they go to the Belton High School or the Lake Belton, they get to be a part of both of them. And so I just hats off to just the countless hours, and they really make it fun. Like you go and you drop off, and the coaches, and it's not just coaches, a lot of the high school students are there too. They're excited to be there, and it makes it just really fun for our kids. And so I'm just incredibly thankful that my kids are not at home bored and wanting to be on a tablet, that they look forward to going to basketball camp and volleyball camp and just all those things. So super appreciative for our athletic department in the summer.
I know it's already been said, but I mean, graduation, gosh, that's just the best day of the year. That's why we're here, for those kids to walk across the stage and get ready for the next part of their lives. So you couldn't have said it better than what you said, Jeff. It's just better and better every year. I got to do my first ever dunking booth. I got to sit on a chair and get dunked in the water with Project Heartbeat, and they raised some money and some clothes, got some clothes donated, and some canned goods and some food for the next school year for the students that are served through Project Heartbeat. So that was fun. And let me tell you, after about 2 minutes of getting dunked, it goes by pretty quick. So if you sign up for 30 minutes, that's a long time. Also just shout out to our staff that are working this summer to provide summer meals to our community, to our students across the district. That goes a long way to our kids who don't have as many means as some others. So thank you to all of those staff members working at our campuses.
Manuel, I never had an appreciation for how hard it is to go last. Right? You guys have taken so many great things, right? I mean, I have to talk about graduation, right? Senior dad, right? Graduation was awesome. You know, it's the culmination of why we do what we do and what we're doing here, right? And to see it all come together, you know, the 13 or 14 years that these kids have been with us, right? If they started at pre-K, this is it, right? And it's just such a special moment. And so, you know, again, I reiterate the thank you to everybody who helped put it on, especially our handling team over there with communications, keeping us all straight. But no, that was absolutely outstanding. I was also going to shout out our coaches, right? I mean, we've had two pretty high-profile coaching additions, right? One at each high school on the football side. And I've heard nothing but great things about the interactions that the coaching staffs are having with the students and their parents, and it seems to be going really well. And I too have a middle schooler who's wearing out workouts, and he's like loving going, which is like completely blows my mind. But yeah, no, it's so great. Yeah, and I want to see the photos or videos of the dunking booth, right? Like I need to see that. So I'll leave it there.
Hey, Chris, let me say something else about graduation. The efficiency that we saw this year was phenomenal. Things went so much more smooth, after all these years, and man, this year it seemed like it just went fast, all right? Because it did go faster. So thanks to all the folks that took in the suggestions and implemented the suggestions that were made, it just made things much more efficient and much more smooth.
All right, last call. Okay, all right, we're going to take a step backwards as far as on the printed agenda. We're going to go into action items. And so we've got two action items here. We'll start out with item A, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action on a resolution regarding the engagement of an independent auditor to conduct the district's efficiency audit.
Yes, thank you, Board. So Melissa Lafferty, our Chief Financial Officer, has come to the podium. There are lots of reasons why a district would want to pursue doing an efficiency audit, and she's going to share some of those highlights with you this evening.
Right. Good evening. Tonight we're bringing you an action item, and this action item comes in the form of a resolution to select an audit firm to conduct an efficiency audit. An efficiency audit is basically a strategic tool that takes an independent look at how well a district allocates its resources. It answers the questions, is the district allocating those financial resources and getting those expected results? How well do we maximize the value of our staff, our instructional spaces, technology, and programs? From time to time, a board can voluntarily just have an efficiency audit just as a management tool to help improve the fiscal practices of a district. So it's also a good tool to just kind of see how good is our budgeting practices, and just looks at those financial efficiencies. And not only does it do that, but more importantly, it can build trust in the community. An efficiency audit is designed to provide transparency and objective information about the financial management practices, the spending efficiencies, and how well do we utilize our resources as a school district. And usually an efficiency audit is the first step or the mandatory requirement if a board of trustees decides to hold a VATR, or a voter approval tax rate election. Okay, so that would be mandatory. The Legislative Budget Board has established some very strict guidelines when it comes to efficiency audits. And so within those guidelines are strict timelines on when an efficiency audit should be conducted, or the steps to get to that efficiency audit, as well as it also gives the criteria for what is to be audited and then how that audit report is to be presented to the community. So the timeline for an efficiency audit is your auditor must be selected at least 4 months prior to a November election, so that if a board does call for a VATR, that auditor has to be selected 4 months prior. July 3rd would be the deadline to select an auditor, okay? Just to kind of give you a timeline. The audit, once the auditor is selected, they have 3 months to complete that audit, okay? And then once that's completed, prior to that election, then those audit results must be discussed in an open public meeting and then posted on the district's website. Okay, so those are the mandatory requirements as far as the timeline when it comes to an efficiency audit. Within the Legislative Budget Board's guidelines, they give us the criteria that must be audited, or for the auditor, for them to do the audit. and also how that audit report should look. But they not only look at our financial practices, they also look at non-financial data. For instance, our academic accountability ratings, our student enrollment, our demographics. So it's not just how well do we budget or what's our budget practices, although it does look at that. It also looks at that additional data. Now, when they do that, to help create some clarity to the audit, it also compares Belton ISD to peer districts that are pretty much the same makeup as our district. And then we'll compare us to those peer districts as well as the state average. Okay, so when you get the report, you'll see us, that data compared to the state and those peer districts. Some of the significant audit areas that get covered in an efficiency audit is, of course, the accountability, not just financial, but also academic. It looks at the student demographic data, our enrollment. It will compare us to the state and those peer districts. It looks at our staffing. What's our staffing ratios? You know, what's our practices in determining that staffing? And then as well as all of the budget practices. You know, they will look at how we budget. They will look at our first rating and everything finance. So it's not just going to be Melissa's world. I mean, the whole team's going to have to jump in to provide this data for the auditors. So with that being said, we're just going to ask for your approval tonight to get that efficiency audit. And if you have any questions for me, you're more than welcome to ask.
Yeah, Melissa, could you go back on the mandatory timeline? One,
Sorry.
just to clarify, we chose as a district to do a PEMS audit. We chose as a district to do a special education audit. We chose to do a staffing audit through TASB. We can choose to do an efficiency audit, period.
True.
Right?
True that.
Okay. The mandatory timeline kicks in if you are doing it and ultimately going to call a
Right,
VADER.
exactly.
Is that
If you're going
correct?
to call for a VADER,
Okay.
that's the mandatory timeline, correct?
Okay.
I've got a question along those same lines. So the timeline, and I mean, looking at the board packet, the cost of the services would not exceed $12,430, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we, and we talked about this in the workshop about if we chose scenario 3, then we would be conducting a VADER. Not that we're doing that or anything like that, but if we decided on that, are we going to incur this cost? In other words, do we need to make this decision now? And if we make the decision now to choose someone that we have in our packet, we're not going to owe any money in the event that we don't go out for a VADER. Is that right?
Well, we would still pay for an efficiency audit.
Okay.
If, as a board, you decide, no, we do not want to do the VADER, we're not going to do it this year, but wanted to do one, you know, in the future, then we would have to come back and do an efficiency audit and then follow the strict timeline.
Okay, so we're going to incur the cost no matter what. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this goes back to Dr. Golden's comments from a minute ago, right? So this is a tool that we have. This is a tool that we have in our toolbox from an auditing
Right.
standpoint, right? And I think we've
Right.
always taken great pride in the level of transparency that we have
Sure.
from a financial audit standpoint, right? And so this is a tool that we have to sort of look at more than just the financial transparency piece of it. Now, it also happens to have another purpose, right? And so, you know, you could ask, well, why now?
Right.
Right? Well, why now? We've you know, just come through a very interesting time from a budgeting standpoint, right? And so, you know, so let's take the opportunity to kind of benchmark across our peers, right, across the state. So let's take that opportunity. But also the why now is, you know, it does preserve an option, you know, if we wanted to go down a path from a VADER standpoint. Like, we haven't been talking about that. But from a timeline perspective, it at least would preserve that option. And so in the spirit of sort of keeping tools in the toolbox and not limiting us.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my question, I probably was a bit vague with my question. So the purpose is not simply for VADER. It's
Correct.
a prerequisite, but we would use it for other purposes as well, is my question, right?
Yes,
That's our
I mean,
primary interest in
Right,
that.
because it could help us find efficiencies, you know, areas that we need
Sure.
to improve upon and in our budgeting process.
No, I understand that, but I was just
yeah.
trying to make sure that it was not just for the purposes of a VADER.
No,
Right.
yeah, no, it is not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then just for the sake of discussion too, when I'm looking at that, when we did that, the TASB audit, well, I wasn't on the board then, but I've looked at it since, that was super helpful to me, to see the peer districts and to see those comparisons and where we were over and different things. So, my interest in this has nothing to do with the Vader, rather than just, I think, very helpful information. And this, from what it looks like, goes into a lot more detail than what we got on the TASB one, which seemed like it was mainly only personnel and staffing. So I think this has potential to give us some great information.
And Riley, that was my point. I wanted to make sure that the folks watching and the folks out here in the public understand that we're not doing this for the purposes of Vader, right?
Right.
Because then that conveys that that's what we're going to do when that's not the case, right?
Okay, any further discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the engagement of Patillo, Brown, and Hill LLP to conduct the efficiency audit as presented? Mr. Norwood, and, we got Riley, okay. All right, Mr. Beck. All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, okay, that can be none opposed. We do have one empty seat over there, so the motion passes 6-0. All right. Okay, now give me a minute. The next one is a mouthful. Okay, all right, so now action item B, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding an order authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of Belton Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, providing for the award of the sale thereof in accordance with specified parameters, authorizing the execution and delivery of documents and agreements in connection therewith, approving the preparation of one or more official statements, and enacting other provisions relating thereto. Whew. All right. I don't think you ever did the one that long, Daniel.
Thank you for that.
All right, let's
yes, go. Okay, so the abbreviated version of that is Melissa's here as well as Jennifer Ritter. We are here to talk about saving our taxpayers' money. Is that a better highlight?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the opportunity to refund some bonds, save some taxpayers.
All right, technical difficulties. We'll be back with you in just a second here. Can I donate my mic? Will that work down there?
Christine, can we try just grab Riley's and then we can give it right back to him? Okay. Does that work?
There it goes.
All right, adaptability at its best. Here we go.
Check, check, check.
There you go.
This is better. Yay! All right, I'm Jennifer Ritter with Specialized Public Finance. My colleague Cole Gilmore is here as well tonight. He was covering in case I couldn't make your meeting in time, so I appreciate y'all taking us a little bit down the agenda. So, does this sound weird? Are we okay? Okay. It's not very glamorous. Okay, so this is, as discussed, a refunding for savings. Back when we sold bonds earlier this year for your technology bond, there was also a small piece that was a current refunding. At that time, we mentioned that you had some other bonds that would become callable in August of this year. IRS law says that you can't refund more than 90 days before the call date, so we went ahead and sold those bonds and said, we'll come back to you if this second refunding makes sense, and so that's what the action item is tonight. So as we've done in the past, and there's a presentation, do y'all have? Anybody? Oh, just press the button, that's it? Okay, that would have been, all right, it feels late, it's not that late, I'm just getting old, okay. Here's the presentation on this. Interest rates have been kind of all over the place, as probably you've heard. Obviously, good news out of the Middle East today with the potential ceasefire or whatever we're calling it in terms of the Iran conflict. Markets are still heavily focused on inflation, and so as that starts to resolve and maybe gas prices start to come down a little bit, that'll be helpful for our market. But historically speaking, you can see here we're still in a pretty steady rate environment here on the far right-hand side, as opposed to where we were a year ago. So the actual bonds that we have that are callable, let me flip through here, are the 2017 series, I think, on my notes here, that become callable this summer. So the bonds that we called earlier this year in conjunction with the technology bond, those saved about $750,000. This was a bigger deal here. The interest rates that you're currently paying on these are a little bit higher, between 4 and 5%. Current market rates would be closer to the low 4s, or in this case we say 4.033%. And that far right-hand column there, you can see that when we put in current rates to take out the old bonds, you can see savings are almost $6 million, $5.7 million. That's just, again, for everyone who's not familiar with these, who may be watching, we're just taking the existing bonds, paying them off with new bonds that happen to have a lower interest rate because market rates are lower today, not stretching it out, nothing else happening, just taking old high debt, paying it off with new low interest rate debt, generating savings. So that's what's happening there. We're projecting it currently to be about, again, almost $6 million in savings as a result of doing that, or about $425,000 a year. So on the timing for doing this, as we've done in the past with your bond sales, this is what we call a delegation pricing, where essentially the board tonight gives authority to the superintendent, board president, or CFO to price on your behalf. And the benefit of doing that is that we'll go out, we'll do the offering documents, we'll get the bond rating updated, we'll apply for the permanent school fund guarantee to replace your bond rating with the AAA guarantee of the state of Texas. And then once all that's done, we'll be in a position to price probably the beginning of August. Again, those bonds become callable in the middle of August, so we have 90 days beforehand. So that perfect timing, we'll have your certified values in place as well. So we're planning to price on August 6th, but again, with the delegation, we pick the best day in the market. So if August 6th doesn't work, if we can move it around any time in there to hit a good date in the market, and then close September 2nd or somewhere in that time frame. So the delegation order itself would tonight, should you choose to do so, the action would be to designate the pricing officers who will take action on your behalf. Again, that's the president of the board or superintendent or the CFO. The aggregate principal amount is $106,880. That's the amount of bonds that you have that'll be currently callable. We actually think it'll be less than that. We're just picking off what are the best maturities to generate the most savings. But in case interest rates drop, we included all that would be eligible to refinance. You had to have a minimum savings of 3%. We're above that currently at roughly 6.5%, but we had to put something as a minimum. You can change that if you want. And at the final maturity of the bonds will not exceed February 15th of 2047. That's when those bonds, old bonds, would have matured, so we can't stretch it out any longer. So essentially that's what that's saying. So I was trying to look back. I don't have the exact data in front of me. I'm sorry for not bringing it, but over the last few years in terms of refundings, you guys have saved well over, I believe, $10 million by just going in and taking out higher debt when it becomes callable and replacing it as the market makes it available with lower interest rates. That's exactly what this is doing. If for some reason interest rates move up between now and when we are ready to price, this lasts for a year. If you can't do it in a year, it goes away, no expense to the district. We just put it back on the shelf or come back to you when we're ready to do it. So again, the action tonight allows you to take advantage of the refunding opportunity should it be beneficial to you to do so. It doesn't require you to do so. And then obviously once it takes place, we'll come back and through Melissa update the board or come back out and speak to you however you want to handle it. But the idea would be to move as quickly as we can once we get into that IRS allowable time frame and lock in those savings as soon as we can so that the taxpayers get to benefit from that.
All right, I'm going to jump out on this one. So this is really important, right? I mean, I think one of the things we've really done well on this board over the last many years is the way that we've kind of gone after managing the outstanding bonds, right? And I know you mentioned $10 million. I thought it was closer to $14 million, but well,
It's for sure.
So we've done this a couple times, and we've saved, let's just say over $10 million, right, to be safe for this, and this is going to, add $6 million to that, right? It does not extend the duration, right? It's saving us money, right? This is a no-brainer, right? This is something of the DNA of this board where we're really going after, and with great partners, right? Really going after, great financial management to make sure that we're saving money for the taxpayers of the district. So I think this is a no-brainer, and certainly open to any other questions or comments or concerns.
I don't see any downside.
Well, and to your point, downside would simply be, because sometimes that question comes up, of why wouldn't we do this? Yeah. The only downside would be that is, again, we don't have a crystal ball, but interest rates drop between now and, a year, and we could have saved more. So that's the downside, is that you save $6.5 million, whatever it is, and it could have been $8, but we're not in the business of managing taxpayer money by shoulda, woulda. So, to your point. And I forgot to mention Andy Prohoda, is that how you say it? Is also here from Bracewell, your bond attorney, so if y'all have any questions. He wrote that language you had to read, so I'm gonna blame him. I'm gonna blame him for that.
I hope I did it justice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Do we have a motion to approve the order authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of Belton ISD unlimited tax refunding bonds series? Now it says series 2026. I think it's actually series 2017. 2026A. Okay. How about this? I'm going to go back and reread it just to make sure that we got a clean read of it. So
2026A.
What's that?
A, the letter A after 2026.
Okay, 2026A, got it. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the order authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of Belton Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds, series 2026A, as presented? All right, we've got one. Rucker? All right, Ms. Bass. Okay. Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, I count 6. We got an empty chair, 6-0. All right, passes. All right, thank you. So this concludes the action item portion of our evening. So thank you all very much. So now we are going to move on to the consent agenda. I believe we do have one item that we're going to pull out separately. So that is item G. So renewal of the memorandum of understanding with Central County's Services. So we're going to pull that out. And so, so do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented minus item G? We'll come back and we'll do that one separately. Do we have a motion, again, to address all the items on the consent agenda with the exception of item G? All right, so we've got Mr. Alcozer. And then we got Mr. Beck. Okay. Any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, I'm counting 6. We got an empty chair, so 6-0, that passes. All right, so we're going to come back to item G, renewal of memorandum of understanding with Central County Services. So before we address that, is there any discussion that needs to occur on this one? Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a vote. So all those in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to approve item G? Thank you. All right. So we've got Ms. Bass. And do we have a second? All right, Mr. Norwood. Thanks for keeping me honest on procedure there. Okay, now, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count 5. All those opposed? 0. Anybody abstaining? All right, 1. So we got 5, 0, 1. The motion passes. All right, so thank you there. Okay. So I think we are down to public comments regarding non-agenda items. Are there any public comments? All right, I'm getting the no. Okay, so we are going to go into closed session. So let's see, the time is now 8:10. And the board will now go into closed session for student disciplinary matter, Texas Government Code Section 551.082, personnel, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and consultation with attorney, Texas Government Code Section 551.071. The time is 8:50 p.m., and the board will now reconvene in open session. No action was taken in a closed session. All action items, reports, and consent items for this meeting have been addressed. There will be no further business. This meeting is adjourned at 8:51.